Was one person I wish though Congress had called, but we have him now, Barstool Sports founder and president David Portnoy. David, your overall thoughts on what we saw yesterday at that hearing?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it was interesting to see some of these guys put on the spot. A lot of grandstanding, probably by a lot of politicians. I don't know that we got any answers, and I don't know that it changed the overall perspective of what went on. But like what you just said is right. I've always, from the beginning of this, I think Vlad is a crook and should be in jail, and I just refuse, no matter how much they say, that, you know, the Melvins and the Citadels weren't involved or swayed the decision that Robinhood made. And Vlad has said so many contradicting statements on why they acted as they did. And he looks like he's wearing a wig on trial. He just looks like a villain. He speaks like a villain. He smells like a villain. He looks like a villain. He is a villain.
The media today, you know, I'm toggling around. I'm watching all the channels and all the usual suspects. A lot of sympathy for Vlad, you know, a lot of sympathy for Ken Griffin. And here's a thing that I heard over and over again that pissed me off, that the individual investor has never had it so good. You know, if you own a stock and you buy it at $200 and it's going through the roof, and all of a sudden Wall Street stop you from buying it, and they say all you can do is sell it, how is that feeling so good? How does that help the individual investor?
There's nobody on God's green earth who can convince me that if the shoe is on the other foot, never in the history of the stock market, when the hedge funds and the Griffins are making billions, do they press the pause button. Never, ever, never. They figure it out. This time, the one time where the retail trader had the advantage, that's when they pressed the pause. It just wouldn't have happened the other way, and I've said it a million times. For some reason, when the hedge funds were making billions, and there's articles you can go, hedge funds making billions on pandemic volatility, nobody had a problem with it. It just went. But when it was the little guy making it, that's when suddenly there's all these issues. And by the way, I remember Vlad saying he got a call at 3 a.m. saying, you know, from his team that they didn't have the liquidity. And then he says he flip-flops on that liquidity issue every time you ask him. It depends the time of the day you get him at.
What do you think then from here? You know, because pay for order flow. They seem to be trying to circle the wagons around that. Again, it's illegal in other countries to do it. They're saying it's a good thing. Obviously, these large hedge funds, they get to see your orders. They get to make money between the orders. They are not doing it as an altruistic favor for the investment community. So is that one of the things you want to see? There was nothing about synthetic puts, naked shorting, and any of those kind of real issues that hurt the individual investor.
Stock market is run by the wealthy and the billionaires, and they make the rules and they play by the rules, and we've seen it time and time again that, you know, they basically have a fail-safe that the retail investor doesn't have. You hear stories, you hear horror stories of people getting involved in Robinhood or others, and they're doing options and they get killed and they lose all their money, and nobody comes to the rescue. Nobody says, hold on, we're going to bail you out, we're going to do this for you, we're going to do that. It never happens. It only happened the reverse way, and that is the frustration. But now, I do think there has to be legislation that can change in this internet age for these run-up on these stocks. Like, something has to be done with that. Robinhood, the simple thing, I think what they should have done when this happened is they should have froze all buying and selling, and they should have, if you want to liquidate at the price, you can liquidate, and they should have taken their time. But you got to do something that allows it to be fair on both sides, and you don't have this overwhelming feeling as a retail investor that at any time now, the rules can change if you're doing too good.
A couple of weeks ago, I think you were on with Stuart, and it sounded like you were throwing in the towel. Yesterday's action was really amazing because you could see where the retail investor was deflated across the board, because retail investors have done extraordinarily well. It hasn't just been GameStop, but yesterday, all their favorite things, whether it was GameStop, Bitcoin names like Riot got slammed, the weed names like Tilroy got slammed, the renewables like Plug got slammed. And I think that's a mistake for the retail investor to be deflated. Even though the odds are stacked against people, I don't want to see you or anybody else give up on this. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think they can give up, because still, you know, it's funny, and not to go full circle here, but since I've been doing DDTG and the day trading markets, the stock market is way up, and anybody who's gotten involved should be substantially ahead. What struck me yesterday also was Plotkin of Melvin Capital at one point. He said it is unprecedented times. They didn't see this coming from the internet where they short a stock and there would be a revolt. When he said that, well, shame on you, That's your job as the head of a hedge fund, because the internet didn't sneak up on anybody. And Roaring Kitty actually has a video well before any of this happened. When I started the day trading stuff, he has the logo DDTG, and he said, it's not about whether I'm picking stocks that are right or wrong. He said, if you don't see the movement that is happening with the retail traders, you're behind the eight ball. He almost predicted what was going to happen. And you have Melvin Capital, who has their head in the sand. Listen, if you want to take risk and make billions, when you're wrong, end of game. You shouldn't get saved. So the retail investor should not be discouraged, because, to be honest, this happened because we're putting the hammer on them. All the suits are running, right. And this is good. It stinks. It's unfair. But we're on the offensive. The term diamond hands, listen, if I'm in a stock, I buy it at 40 and it goes to 80, usually I'm out. If it goes from 40 to 400, I'm really out. The idea of diamond hands, or really, those kind of things, should the individuals here, what should they be doing for themselves when these stocks start to take off? Here's the thing, and this is another pet peeve of mine, that there seems to be this notion from talking heads, I know CNBC loves saying this, that individuals are too stupid to think for themselves. And this isn't just the stock market. This seems to be everything. You need your handheld. There is risk in the stock market, no doubt. You shouldn't invest more than you can lose, no doubt. But this leading, like Roaring Kitty somehow is leading people to their doom or misleading. Shut up and let people make decisions for themselves. There's the internet, there's research. The Reddit boards are probably the most fair, accurate representation of what's going on to begin with. There's all these people who for the most part, have no side agendas. So let people make decisions. Some people have higher risk tolerance, some don't. You want a mutual fund, knock yourself out. You want GameStop, go for it. But let the people decide. So, in the meantime, some lawmakers have called out Vlad for changing the rules in the middle of the game. And by the same token, though, again, on financial media, they're saying he had no choice. I just demonstrated why I think that is a BS answer. What do you think, though, should happen? I mean, I know you're no fan of him. You think he's a villain in this. What should be the consequences of that? Well, we should go back to I do think if you find any proof of wrongdoing, which I doubt they'll go subpoena all the phone records, he should go to jail. Barring that, the free market should talk. Like, I'm convinced Robinhood won't bounce back, that there will be a new trading platform that basically has the same message as Robinhood, except they mean it, which is they're there for the retail trader. Nobody can trust Vlad or Robinhood. Why would you want your money there? So I think, the market will determine the market. I think they're going to be hurt, and I think they're going to be hurt long term, and rightfully so. If they charged, I don't know what the number will be, but if they were to charge, get rid of this paying for order flow, maybe get the settlements, instantaneously instead of a couple of days when all kinds of freaky things go on. If they were to make those sort of adjustments, do you think that this stocks revolution that you're a big part of can continue? I mean, would people bristle at the fact I've got to pay $1 to trade this stock or whatever it might be? I don't think they will, totally, no, and I don't think that will change anything. I think the biggest blow here is perception. Robinhood really, their entire marketing was that they were on the side of the retail investor, that they were for the little guy. And then this happens, you start finding about Order Trade and Melvin and Citadel, and it turns out they're just like the other guys. They're wearing a mask, basically. So I think it's more just the perception of the firm, but I don't think long-term. Retail trading is here to stay. A lot of people went crazy on Twitter. They were thrilled that you were going to be on the show, and many of them asked the same question. What's Dave Portnoy buying now? So, I always get nervous, but I'm heavily involved in gambling stocks because Penn National, which bought a minority share in Barstool. So I'm very familiar with that space. It's a legalized vice. That marijuana, I think its space is green and open. So I'm obviously a huge Penn guy. There's a little Canadian company with Canadian sports, The Score, tiny little company that I think is interesting. And then I have the normal guys. I still have Shopify. It went down a little bit. I still have PayPal. I still like the tech guys, all the tech guys. But gambling space, people love to gamble, and the retail trading shows it. It's always a pleasure. Dave Portnoy, thank you very much. And I want to just say on behalf of all little investors, everyone appreciates the stand that you continue to take. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure.